What about the receiver tight end heat on who gets more money?
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, George Kittle just went on the Theo Vaughn podcast, and he was saying that him and Travis Kelce lead the league or have been leading the league in the last couple of years in touchdowns and yards. And there's still 20 wide receivers that get paid more than both of them. Like, why is that? And is that fair?
I don't even think it's fair because one, these tight ends are blocking defensive linemen.
You're doing more.
Are weighed like 270, 280. Then you got to block those guys. You're still catching the ball, getting hit just like as a receiver. And like you said, you're producing numbers better than receivers. So I think you should get the same amount or better than what these receivers are making.
I feel like, too, it sucks because there's not a whole list of exceptional talent tight ends. There's like...
Yeah, that's true.
There's what? George Kittle...
Travis Kelce. Damn, Darren Waller. I'm blanking. There's like a couple more.
Maybe two more, right? But you can go off on exceptional talent receivers.
Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Deebo Samuel.
Bro, you can go off CeeDee Lamb, fucking guys like, bro, it's just a list of receivers.
But, yeah, for the franchise, you're saying franchise tag or just in general getting paid?
In general.
But I feel like that's, for that reason...
That's the reason why,
they should value George Kittle.
So basically, you're saying there should be a different take on the average of franchise tag. Okay, I get it. There's 12 receivers that set the bar of receiver franchise tag, but there's only 4 or 5 tight ends that set the bar on the tight end tag.
Right.
If you're in that elite 5, then
that makes
tight
sense.
ends should get like 20-something, 30-something million too.
Because they just signed. Who just signed a big wide receiver for a whole shitload of money? Didn't Justin Jeffrey just sign for like $100 million or something? Somebody signed for $100 million.
A receiver?
Yeah, somebody just signed.
Justin Jefferson's still on the Vikings.
Tyreek Hill? The Tyreek?
That was like last year. He signed with the Dolphins.
But either way, it's like you got 20 of this position. Why isn't that lower? I get it, but the standard is higher because they all average better.
Because I remember...
But yeah, more elite with tight ends. Then only 5. If I reach into that elite 5, then I should be in that 20+ million range.
The controversy a couple years ago was when Jimmy Graham, who was probably... Him and Gronk were the top 2 tight ends in the league. But Jimmy Graham was up for a contract extension with the Saints. He got traded from the Seahawks. And he was going to get franchise tagged. His franchise tag was like $9 million, $10 million.
Trash.
And that's because there's not so many tight ends in the league like now who are good. So the average tight end is getting paid like 7 to 10 mil. But receivers were back then still like 7-8 years ago were getting paid like 16 mil. So he's like, I need to get paid as a receiver because I'm catching more than receivers. I'm doing more than receivers, more touchdowns, more receptions, more targets. Yeah. So I want to get paid as a receiver. So I feel like it's...
I think... shout out to my air freshener.
Let it out real quick.
I think the only way to make it fair is you got to get rid of the tight end position and just make all of them receivers.
But you can't really do that because then you got blocking tight ends. What are you going to do with them? You can't call them an O-lineman.
Yeah, there's literally tight ends who get paid just to block.
To block a motherfucker. Well, but I'm not an O-lineman.
All wide receivers don't get paid the same.
That's true.
There's like
yeah,
four string.
So then if you're in, like I said, if you're in that elite tight end position, then you should be in a different like bracket, a different criteria. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you did these were your stats. You're in the receiver.
How about you just lose weight? No, I'm just kidding.
That too.
No, because like I'm saying, George Kittle is known for being a fucking blocker. He could block his ass off.
Dude, George Kittle loves blocking people.
Man, that shit smells great.
Bro, that shit.
Yeah, I'm like,
man, I thought this fool hit us with like some fucking Indiana Jones mist. We were about to die, right? Like, oh, this is it.
Yeah. Off air, like, hey, don't worry about that. No, but there's people like, for example, Matthew Slater. He's a receiver, never has played a down, or not never, for the last like 7 years has never played a down for the Patriots as a receiver, but he's just listed as a receiver. He's a fucking special teams guy. But he gets paid like $1.2 million. But he's listed as a receiver. So like he's saying, tight end, there's certain tight ends that if they're blocking they're gonna be listed as receivers, they could get paid like $2 million.
Yeah.
And then the George Kittles of the world, Travis Kelce's, could get the receiver money and get like $20 million.
Yeah, get the actual bag because they're so multi-versatile.
Like, I think if you're in the NFL, you should know what you're worth and you should know what you're getting paid.
Yeah,
And you're getting paid here to play your 50 snaps every 5 games, 10 snaps a game.
I feel like we're in that weird transition period in the NFL where like guys are doing that, and owners aren't ready for it.
Oh yeah,
for that conversation.